Living so near this cold northern sea sometimes fills me with longing for that lost past time in my life when the Gulf was warm, rich, and filled with more fecundity than we could use. That time when almost daily and for many months my family and I spent leisurely hours tossing in lines, nets, traps, and spears, hauling up fish, crabs, shrimp, oysters, stingrays, and flounders. We would sit then in a circle on the end of the dock, stripping the skins off the catfish, carefully avoiding those deadly whiskers with their long-lasting stings, heading and deveining the shrimp, pulling the backs and the claws from the living, spitting blue crabs. Sipping cokes or beer according to our age and tastes, the grown-ups telling stories on themselves, family, or friends. We were only half aware of all the little lives passing under our ever-busy fingers. My grandmother, always old, directed the crew from her three-legged canvas stool. Her short gray curls were hidden under a large straw hat, which shaded her from the sun whose heat would have been unbearable were it not for a constant soft breeze off the bayou. Grandma always wore short-sleeved flower-printed house dresses, their skinny matching belts the only demarcation of a waist that had otherwise long since disappeared. My mother, seated to her right, kept Grandma supplied with the pounds and pounds of shellfish or scalefish we had hauled in from the sea that morning. Grandma would head them or gut them according to their needs or species and toss them into the wash tub full of ice, sitting by her other side. My grandfather, his work of supervising that morning's catch completed earlier, sat quietly under the faded patio umbrella propped in the corner of the pier, sipping his Lone Star and interrupting a story occasionally to supply a missed date, a forgotten name. Us kids, accompanied by assorted cousins and friends, sat cross-legged on the bare, splintery wood with our work around us, jumping up as called upon to fetch another beer, to empty a bucket of gory guts into the bayou below, or to search the kitchen for a sharper knife. When the tub was full, the catch disposed of for the day, we turned the hose on the blood and slime and fish scales scattered all around, then spray our own skinny, sunburnt limbs and backs, laughing and squealing in the jets of almost cool fresh water. A great green watermelon would be lifted from the bottom of the cooler, and seating ourselves along the edge of the dock, we'd spit out the slim black seeds in slender arcs out over the water just below our dangling feet. My mother and grandmother would pack away most of the clean, smelly bodies we'd just prepared. They'd stuff them into old milk cartons with a masking tape label bearing the date and the description of the goods. Shrimp, large, 6, 17, 60, or crab claws, small, 7, 12, 58. The cartons were stacked in the special refrigerator reserved just for them inside the plywood and screen camp house we'd built ourselves. But the choicest of our catch would be tossed in the pot of crab boil, a frying pan of grease that sat on the back of the stove. With French bread and butter, a salad, more beer or Coke, we'd resume our former positions on the pier in the orange light of the long Texas twilight, enjoying the cooler evening air. Peeling shrimp after shrimp and popping them in our busy mouths, we never considered that such a meal would someday seem a feast. Now I live on the edge of this cold northern sea, a sea which is also full of food, but not teeming, not overflowing as that warm Gulf once was. I live here and I admire the Pacific's clear, clean beauty. But I am always hungry.